express entry draws have been conducted this week. I'm sure you already know by now. But you know what? The first one actually bounced a lot of us, and the first one was the CEC express entry draw. So what happened was, obviously, this week had a Monday off, so all of us were expecting that the draws would, I mean, IRCC would conduct a draw on Tuesday. They didn't do it. They did it on Wednesday. And then on Wednesday, they did a PNP specific draw, which obviously then got us all excited, because then, when we know, right, by the time by now, that whenever there is a PNP draw, it would be followed up with a CEC draw or a category draw. So of course, when there was a PNP draw, we got all excited and we were thinking, okay, this has to be the week for CEC, because 2 weeks back in the last draw cycle, they did conduct a category draw for healthcare. So you would want to see a CEC draw, right? Because you want the scores to go down. But IRCC did conduct a draw, and that was on Thursday. But but what they did is that they threw a serious googly on this one, a real curveball, if you want to call that, because they invited only 1,000 people, and with 1,000 people being invited, the score, as you would imagine, was pretty high at 534. Now, under normal circumstances, this would have really freaked us out, and it did actually. I mean, if you would have seen my video on Thursday, you would have said, okay, something's really wrong, right? But then came the draw on Friday. There was a bit of an anticipation. I have to be very honest with you. I was not expecting a French draw on Friday. I actually thought French draw might actually happen a couple of weeks later, but I was actually thinking more in the lines of trade draw probably, but that didn't happen. They did conduct a category draw, and this is a French draw. Of course, you know about all of this. I'm just trying to recap so that we can get into the meat of discussion for today. And when this draw did happen, then it sort of gave a bit of an insight. Okay, so this is what IRCC was trying to do, that they did not want a longer gap for CECs. Therefore, they gave us a consolation prize, a consolation draw with 1,000 invitations that sort of make us feel that makes us feel that, okay, IRCC is on top of things, that they will be conducting the draws, blah, 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 right? So you all know that. The problem here is that it doesn't make anyone feel good. Why? Because when IRCC is going to conduct, first of all, there is a gap. With the gaps, the scores are going up. With the scores going up, then you conduct only 1,000 kind of a draw. It's a serious dampener, if you would want to call it. Serious, very demotivating for most of the people who are waiting in the pool. Solution? I don't have a solution, because obviously at the end of the day, and I've been saying this like God knows since how many months, weeks, years now, that IRCC doesn't have an unlimited supply of invitations to issue. Of course, the ITAs are capped. There's a quota. I mean, obviously, that quota is never really announced, because that number is a bit variable, I think, depending on how many people are accepting the invitations, how many people are getting rejected, how many people are getting, how many applications are being returned away. On those basis, I think that number keeps fluctuating. So, and they have like a cyclic number, which goes on year. And they obviously can then monitor the applications as they are refusing the applications. And I'm sure a lot of you are now aware that IRCC is on this triad to send out PFLs, refusals, left, right, and center. I mean, I am absolutely, foxed when I see the kind of PFLs that are coming through and the refusals that are coming through. One thing is for sure, IRCC are operating at a different level right now. So hats off and kudos to all those immigration officers out there who have now suddenly woken up to their actual responsibilities, which they should have been following for years by now. But anyways, so at least better late than never is all I can say at this point of time. But at least now I'm seeing some real. I actually saw a PFL which was 9 pages long. 9 pages. I've never seen such a detailed, long PFL, which went into complete details of the applicant's education, work history. It has gone into information that they were able to dig out. They went into open data sources. They checked this person's LinkedIn profile. They have checked this person's social media accounts. Not only have they checked this person's LinkedIn profile, they also checked the LinkedIn profile of the signatory of this person's employment documents. And then they have gone and checked into the corporation of that company, establishment of that company's data, the addresses, the Google pages, the reviews. I mean, I mean, hats off to that officer, right? Whoever that immigration officer was, who was doing that detailed uh, investigation into this person's background. Amazing, incredible. Now, the thing is, while all of this is appreciated in the sense of the IRCC doing such serious due diligence in the applicant's background. In this case, of course, there were a few things which were unwarranted, which were like really, really not making sense. I mean, IRCC is asking for this person's how many times does the person apply for sick leave or annual leave, or how many times, and the correspondence for that, and they wanted some documentation which this person can never provide, like for example company's financial data. How can any employee provide their employer's financial data? Which employer is going to hand it out to their employee and say that go and... So I think there were a few things where the officer was being a bit unreasonable in the demands, but overall that is what it is. And therefore, as in how these kind of PFLs come out, and I have today's consultation, 3 of them lined up, and 3 of them have already sent me their PFL document saying this is what they've got. So I know I have an intense day ahead of me trying to figure out what the solutions for those people would be. But when IRCC is trying to send out these refusals, PFLs, decisions, it varies their ITA quotas as they will be sending it out throughout the year, and that would then vary how many people will become permanent residents. But by now, if you are not already aware, and I think I'm not sure if obviously if you haven't seen the videos, then you wouldn't know, but earlier this year, when I think January, when we were taking a stock of what has already happened in 2024, what is expected in 2025, I already said that as per the inventory that they had nearly 70,000 people whose applications were in the pipeline for processing. So how many invitations could be issued, right? And that point of time also, I had already said that if they were not to conduct any draws at all in 2025, they still had that many people in the pipeline that they could easily complete the 2025 quotas. Of course, that's not how it works. As I said, this is cyclic. They keep issuing invitations, and this is an ongoing thing. So as of today, as of right now, any invitations that are now being issued that you are seeing from, and we are already in the month of August, they are all contributing towards 2026 quotas. Okay, and these 2026 quotas are as it is, as you know, are slightly lower than 2025 quotas. And 2027 quotas would be slightly lower than the 2026 quotas. And of course, we are expecting the immigration targets to be announced by end of October, 1st of November. And already IRCC is conducting stakeholder discussions with regards to the categories for 2026, as in if there will be any changes, if there'll be any new introductions. And I have to talk to you more about that as well. But by and large, overall, if you were to see, I'm not sure if you saw my last week's live stream, and weeks before that, I was also speaking about the express entry and how the anticipation for CECs for this year, remainder of the year is. And I said that to you last time also, that we are already now in August, September, October, November, December, 5 months in hand. In 5 months, you can expect 10, maybe 11, and if you're really lucky, maybe 12 cycles of express entry draws. Cycles. So I don't mean exact specific draws, but cycles, right? I think 12 is a bit high on the side because first week of August is already gone. So I would go with 10 to 11. Out of these 10 to 11, obviously there would be category draws. There have to be category draws. It's just not possible that there are no category draws, right? So because the category draws will happen, and whenever they happen, as was the case a couple of weeks back when the healthcare draw happened, obviously there is not going to be a CEC draw. It's obvious, right? But then at times they might also, again, to me, they can also conduct a CEC draw and a category draw. But then that is primarily to balance out the number of invitations. Remember, as I told you, there is not an unlimited supply of ITAs, of course. Therefore, whenever there is going to be even a large size category draw or multiple category draws. For example, they could have a francophone and a trade draw, STEM and a trade draw, STEM and a food and agriculture draw in one specific week. And that week you will not see a Canadian experience class draw. It has to be understood in this manner. With that happening, the actual number of CEC possible draws that you can anticipate for the remainder of 2025 is between 6 to 8. That's what I would go with. 6 to 8 possible draws for the remainder of 2025. Now with 6 to 8, let's be the optimistic one. Why? Because we are forever hopeful. So let's say with the 8 possible draws for this year, actually let's play in the middle, right? Be more realistic. 7 possible draws for CECs in this year. If they have to send out 3,000, and if IRCC is really feeling benevolent and generous, maybe 4,000, sometimes even 5,000 kind of an ITAs, what that means is that the express entry pool above 500 cannot get cleared. It's now no longer possible. I mean, obviously I was very hopeful at the beginning of the year, but then you would also speculating based on the fact that IRCC will conduct regular draws and continue to conduct draws, but that's not the case. They keep putting all these big pauses in the draw, which completely throws us off the cycle. Now with about 6 to 8, let's say 7 draws that are going to happen in this year for CEC, 3,000 to 4,000, again 5,000 is a bit on the high side. Maybe there's an odd draw that they might want to offset this pool that is going crazy right now. 3,000 to 4,000 invitations, 6 to 7 draws, you're looking at roughly 20,000, approximate 20,000 invitations more to be issued for CEC. Current pool standing is more than 24,000. Now with 24,000 people in the pool, oh boy, and that is 501 plus, right? I don't expect all the pool to get cleared out. And if all the pool is not getting cleared out, and every 2 weeks that we are seeing the number of people, I mean, who are all these 501 plus 1 people, right? I mean, from where are they coming? Earlier, I thought it was the francophones, or at least people who are adding their French language scores onto into their profiles. But that's also not the case, because if it was only the French speakers, then the last draw saw 2,500 getting cleared out, but the score was 481. How can that happen, right? If everybody above 500 was, or rather most of the people who are entering the pool above 500 had high francophone scores or French scores, then the scores have remained even higher, right? With 2,500 profiles gone, scores should have been in the 500 plus range, but that's not the case. It came to 481. Even 481 is very high, to be very honest, but it came to 481, which tells you, even with 481, that there are, and the last draw of francophone or French speakers was in the month of February, and they had a score of 379. So between, but this is a good one, from February onwards, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So in this last 5 months, tons of French speakers have got themselves added into the pool. And that is a testament of the fact of how popular this particular stream is becoming. And mind you, not all French speakers are bilingual. Some of them only speak French. So that's the reason they don't get the extra points that you get. And therefore 379s and 380s and 400s or low 400s could very well be those individuals who only speak French. They're not bilingual. But when you add the bilingual points, right, you can add up to 50 extra points for being bilingual. And that's when your scores shoot up like crazy. And therefore, 481 plus, I would be inclined to believe that these are all largely bilinguals. Largely, of course, not all, but largely bilinguals. And therefore, the scores are that high. But with this, it gives you an idea that the number of people who are adding themselves into the pool with score of 501 plus are not all French speakers. Can't be, right? Otherwise, the scores wouldn't have dropped that much. And if that is the case, then there are only 3 other possibilities that you can have people with scores of 501 plus, which is going bonkers. Between the last 2 draws, almost 3,000 people got added. Now, there are no LMIA points, right? So nobody's getting 50 extra points, right? Which we all were jumping with joy when they removed that with. But who are the other people? Then there are those people who obviously is now the most favorite subject in town, and that is the foreign work experience. Like, how can suddenly over the last few months the number of people getting added into the pool is going bonkers? I mean, I wish I could pull it up. I don't have it right now with me, but I remember doing another video in 2022, so 3 years back, similar time. And at that point of time, the number of people in the pool with score of 501 plus was only 1,300. 1,300, even when there were gaps in the draw, right? And in spite of that, today, when the draws are happening, I wouldn't say regularly, but fairly around the corner, 3,000 people get added in just 2 weeks. So between that time, when of course at that point of time you could also get 50 points for LMIA. So between over the last 2 to 3 years, how is there is such a drastic difference? It's not like suddenly people are now more inclined to get higher scores in English and they are better in their linguistic proficiencies. That suddenly over the period of 2 years, that's not a possibility. Over a period of 2 years, people have also added French. But if that was the case, then I just told you they would have gotten cleared out so many times. That is also not the case. Certificate of qualification, that gives you 50 extra points. How many people can actually get it, right? Of course, people can get it, and there are people who are trying to get it, who are trying to, get their work experiences done. But again, the number is very small. Then what else is this? Then do you have people who have completed master's degree in Canada, also have very high English language scores, also have foreign work experience, also have Canadian experience, and therefore they're scoring this 525 30s kind of a score. But again, how many of those are there, and how many people are actually getting themselves added into the pool every 2 weeks with 2,000 3,000 kind of numbers? All of them can't be masters. All of them can't be diploma holders who also have all of this. And then it just boils down to one factor, and that is foreign work experience. Now, I've been talking about foreign work experience since more than a year, and I've been telling you how it can really, really give you that crazy advantage. For example, if you have 2 years of Canadian work experience, you have CLB 9, you get more points for 1 year of foreign work experience rather than adding third year of Canadian experience. That 1 year of foreign work experience can give you up to 50 extra points. Third year of Canadian work experience will give you only 10 points, or I think 11 points. Like, where is 50? Where is 11, right? I mean, it's like an unfair advantage of 39, 40 extra points. That just blows my mind. And that is one huge aspect that people have begun to realize recently. Diana, a very good colleague on LinkedIn, says, here's hoping that they are not those who have downgraded their spouse as not accompanying. Well, great observation there as well. Great point. But again, people who have already mentioned their spouse as not accompanying, they would already be in the pool, right? So that number I can't contribute that 3,000 increase in the profiles to only for those people who have now showing their spouses not accompanying. Of course, that is another possibility that needs to be taken into consideration. There are obviously a lot of people in the pool whose spouses are not accompanying. But given the current circumstances, given the current mood that the IRCC's officers are in, where they have been sending PFLs in bucket loads to people who have shown their spouse as not accompanying and their spouses are currently in Canada. So if that is the situation, that is the case, well, those ones are getting very tricky to get out of. Sometimes you just don't know what to answer, what to respond to the PFL, because the person has been very candid and has been very upfront and said in their application that, hey, the reason my spouse is not accompanying me because I want to increase my points. Now, what do you do when you get that kind of PFL? Okay. Somebody says, does he even replies to these questions? Well, no, obviously. Why will I reply to these questions, right? Why do a live stream? But if I start answering only the questions, then I cannot even tell you what I'm trying to tell you. And then basically the whole purpose of a live stream is lost. And if it was only the questions that you were looking for, then just post them in the comments after the video. And then hopefully I can come back and answer to as many as I can. But we do answer questions. Obviously there is limited time because only so many things you can do, but right now I think I'm more interested in sharing my point of view with regards to the pool breakdown, which serves the larger purpose here. Therefore, just answering your specific question, that at this point of time is not the priority. I hope you get that. So going back to the express entry pool, and this is how it's looking like. So for the remainder of the year, with only 6 to 7, possibly 8 in the worst case scenario, best case scenario, the number of draws, the scores are going to remain high. That is for most people out there. And with this recent curveball of a 534 express entry score, which basically tells you that as and when the next express entry draw happens, which I am hoping is 2 weeks from now, which could be a proper, when I'm saying proper, I mean with a regular size express entry invitation size, probably 3,000, 4,000 kind of a draw size. That's when you are looking at the scores to drop. But again, this time when the drop happens, it will probably be in the range of 519, 520, 521. So basically the scores from 518, which was the previous CEC draw, has not gone down. The scores have gone up. And now going back to 518 is feeling like a challenge, feeling like a far off dream right now. So therefore, everybody who's an express entry pool, and I know the questions are always there, and that is always something which keeps happening. In the sense of what kind of a score can we expect? First of all, I don't know, because in order to know that, you would know the exact pool. You would need to know the exact pool breakdown for every single point. How many people are there? Number one. Number two, you would also need to know how many invitations are going to be issued. Number three, what you would also need to know, how many every single day, how many people are getting added with what kind of scores and what range. That would then tell us what kind of scores to expect. All of these are variables to which we have we are not privy to any of this information, and therefore everything is a speculation with lots of hopes and prayers and positive vibes going out. So that's primarily what I have to talk to you with regards to what IRCC is doing with express entry draws. There have also been questions about, will there be a STEM draw? Will there be a trade draw? Will there be another education draw? Will there be another healthcare draw? Will there be another francophone draw? And of course, one category which not many people ask about, but which also is there, and that is the food and agriculture, where you have only one knock code, and that of butchers. Is that occupation going to be invited? Well, IRCC in the most recent, what is this called? It's called, let me see if I can. Yes. In the most recent 25 consultations on economic priorities for category-based selection and express entry. So these are the consultations that are happening for discussion on categories that have to be decided upon for 2026. And in this, they have very clearly said that a lot of information there. I'm going to talk to you about this in a bit. And it said, express entry focus in 2025. And then it says selection focused on candidates eligible for 2025 categories. And in this, it says healthcare, which we know about, trades, education, which has just been introduced in 2025, agriculture and agri-food, and STEM. So all these categories have been included, and it says current categories are, and again it talks a bit briefly about these categories, and then it talks about the French language proficiency as well. So just to reiterate, for those people who are confused or doubtful whether STEM has been included in this year's category or not, then well, this is the IRCC website, which says that it has been included, and so are the trades very much there. And the way I look at it, I am quite sure that these categories will be included, and the draws, at least there should be at least one draw for each of these categories for this year. And if the draws do happen, then this is something which is going to be interesting. But because those draws will happen, at least I would like to believe so, that would put another gap for the CEC draws to continue. And when the CEC draws gap will happen, then the pool breakdown pushes up. And when the pool breakdown pushes up, or pool distribution, if you want to call that, then the scores are also either going to stay the same, similar, or those also then get pushed up, just like what's happened this week. So that's what you need to be aware of. That's what you need to keep in mind. That's what you need to be mindful of when you're planning for your journey. If you're on LinkedIn is full of people who are just trying to portray this in a very positive manner, strategize and do this and do that. Instagram Reels, same thing. I have the pathway, and there is a pathway which just lets you apply like this. And very recently, I saw another one which says North Okanagan has a pathway where if you find a job with 118 any of these 118 companies, you are definitely going to get a PR. Well, duh, of course. Just getting a job is not going to work. The employers also have to apply for you. That's, we're talking about the RCIP here. So if you are going to fall all over yourself, tripping on these Instagram reels, TikTok reels, LinkedIn posts, Facebook posts, then the problem is going to be that you will not get anywhere, because as much as I am forever hopeful, that hopium sometimes is not going to help you. What needs to be done here is being more aware of what's happening, be very realistic, be in the moment, understand which direction this whole boat is going towards, and then strategize. And if you have to then get the foreign work experience, then do it. Why are you still waiting? I know for a fact a lot of people who have suddenly got their scores up are the ones who are now trying to show foreign work experience concurrent with Canadian work experience. I know my very good friend, Canadian immigration lawyer Stephen Burns, had recently posted another section of the ATIP notes where the communication, it was from the immigration representatives portal, where IRCC had responded and said that they will indeed accept, or rather, not they will, but that you can indeed claim concurrent work experience, as in the Canadian work experience, as well as the foreign work experience at the same point of time. Again, that's only me and my interpretation, that I tend to disagree with that, because the ministerial instructions under section 25 have a very specific note under work in excess, where it says that if you have more than one work experience, simultaneous work experience, then you can only claim points for one period of work. So that ATIP note had a different opinion on this. But at the end of the day, what will matter would be the officer who is adjudicating your application, or who is deciding upon your application, and which direction did that officer's mind go in the way of interpreting the law. Well, if you want to take a chance, yeah, of course you can. I mean, who can stop you from taking a chance? But the way I look at it, if you cannot claim more than one Canadian work experience of more than 30 hours, then you shouldn't be able to do that. Now, the system may allow you. The express entry system is a very dumb system. You input certain information, it gives you the points. It's only after you've submitted your application does IRCC actually go through your documents and then decide whether any specific section of the law applies and whether they can give you that leave or not. I believe that you can't work concurrently and you can't claim points concurrently. System allows you to do that, yes. And that could be one reason why we are seeing a lot of people doing it. Remote work experience continues to be a distinct gray area. I have seen refusals of people who have claimed remote work experience. Remote work experience, like you are in Canada claiming work experience for that you are performing for an employer outside Canada, or you are outside Canada and you're performing work experience for an employer in Canada. Both the cases of remote, I have seen officers having a problem in both situations, though I don't think remote experience is incorrect. Again, the section of the law says that the foreign work experience is work experience obtained outside Canada. Now, obtained outside Canada could be work which was delivered to an employer outside Canada. Again, it's all how you define that period of, how you define that work experience and how you define that activity performed outside Canada. Nowhere does it say that you need to be physically, the word physically outside Canada is not included in any section of the law as far as foreign work experience definition is concerned. Therefore, when the immigration officers are now refusing applications for remote work experience, stating that you are not physically outside Canada, that word physically is the interpretation of the officer. It is not in the regs, regs and regulations or Immigration Refugee Protection Act. So therefore, again, this is something which will be contested at some point of time in the court under the judicial review, and at some point of time, I'm sure a judge is going to make a decision, and therefore we will have a case law and a jurisprudence on that, and therefore we will then be able to say it with some more certainty than that. As of right now, remote work experience, gray area. Concurrent work experience, huge gray area. And people, whether they take a chance or not, I obviously can't tell you that, but you have to be aware that these things can land you in a bit of a pickle, and that's just about it. Right, off and on. We move on to our weekly roundup. And if you guys are here, give us a thumbs up, so get this video out to more people. If you will like this, it will reach out to more people. That is always a request. And then, of course, if you're here, then obviously please do subscribe to the channel so that we get more numbers up and more motivation to continue doing this. Okay, express entry draw. We had on 7th of August 1,000 invitations issued under the Canadian Experience class stream of express entry, score of ridiculous high 534, which was anticipated. And then, of course, there on the 8th of August, there was a French language proficiency draw as well. And this was where they issued 2,500 invitations, score of 481. And of course, earlier in the week on the 6th of August, so we had 3 draws, actually, not 2. And the third one, it sort of goes away into, it fades away because these are the people who have got their nomination. They probably were waiting for 6 months, 1 year before they got the nomination, but congratulations to them because of their conviction and persistence. 225 invitations issued, score of 739. These are the people who got the 600 points for their nomination. This is the pool breakdown, right? June 21, 21,348 people in the express entry pool, between 501 to 600. And then on the 5th of August, which was that recent pool distribution announced after the PNP draw, 24,165. So nearly 2,800, 2,900 people got added with score of 501 to 600. Big number, right? And if you keep this into consideration that on the 21st of July, there was a draw in healthcare category, in that week of 21st of July, 4,000 invitations were issued. So obviously, there would have been some people above 500 who would have also received the invitation. And because there is no way to know the exact number, I would say almost 3,000 plus people got added into the pool with 501. And that's a big number, to be very honest. And that is a concern to the effect of who are these people who are getting these high scores, because earlier people could point fingers at LMIAs and say, hey, these are the people who are buying LMIAs and fake job offers, etc., etc. Now everybody's pointing fingers towards foreign work experience. I'm not going to say that people genuinely don't have the foreign experience that they're claiming points for. I think it's a mixed bag. Of course, there are always going to be people who will figure out a loophole, who will figure out a way to cheat the system, who are going to figure out a way to scam the system. And I really hope IRCC catches them by the neck and roughs them up, right? If they can, of course. But in 9 out of 10 cases, a lot of them will actually slip through because of the requirement of the proof that IRCC has is not too much, right? All you need is an employment letter. Then you need is a pay stub. Then you need is a proof of salary. And IRCC still accepts cash salary. So you can imagine how easy it is to get for anyone a document which says, this person has worked for this company doing this job. He was paid in cash. This is the cash salary certificate, and off he goes, right? How difficult do you think it is to get for somebody? How difficult is it for somebody to get this kind of a document and then claim this work experience? So I would like to see IRCC coming down heavily on this factor. Again, this is not to take away from the fact of people who genuinely have the foreign work experience, but this needs to really go in the sense of this needs to become stringent. And if you did work, well, then you would have no problem proving that work experience. In some cases, you might have to provide some additional documents. That's absolutely fine. At the end of the day, what you need to understand is you're applying for permanent residence. You're changing your countries. You're changing your homes. You're going to be living in Canada permanently. And if the country does their due diligence, if the country then opts to use stricter methodology to validate and verify your background, which you are claiming, which they have the right to, then you should have no objection to that. You should not have a problem to that, right? And of course, if your work experience is genuine, you definitely shouldn't have a problem to that. So people who will have a problem to that will actually have something who they want to, they have something to hide. And therefore, as far as I'm concerned, I would like to promote, propagate, advocate for the fact that foreign work, actually not only foreign work experience, even Canadian experience, there has to be a better way of validating, verifying, checking on these details, checking on this information. And I think it's about time IRCC and CBSA come together and start with some more stricter enforcement action within Canada. They have to conduct audits. They have to conduct site visits. They have to find people who are living in Canada illegally. They have to start taking more action in order to bring more, to basically, bring the integrity back into the system. Because as of right now, it feels like almost a joke, I would say. Right, moving on with this. PNP draws, we had one in Quebec on the 28th of July under the ARIMA portal. Minimum score was 661, which required 24 months of work experience and residence outside the metropolitan area of Montreal. Manitoba issued 37 letters of advice to the skilled work under the skilled worker stream with a minimum score of 724. That's not too bad, but I think this was under the strategic recruitment initiative, which makes it very, very difficult. In the PNP updates, we have, in other news, Atlantic Immigration Program updates the requirement of settlement funds, the proof of funds. That numbers have been updated. So if you are applying under the AIP program, please ensure that you provide the required amount for your proof of funds. Provinces push for more immigration control and calls for national reform. Doug Ford and Jim Reiter at the helm of affairs on this one, and they are demanding more more discretion when they are choosing and adjudicating their PNP programs, and they would like Quebec-like powers, right? So Quebec, I'm not sure how many of you are aware, Quebec has complete autonomy on their own immigration programs, whereby once they have chosen a person, then IRCC has pretty much got to approve that application, unless, of course, there is an inadmissibility issue. But that's not the case with the provincial nominee programs. IRCC can still check their eligibility, check their intent to reside, check if they can economically establish themselves, and that continues to be a problem for the provinces, and they would like more autonomy on their own programs. I'm not sure if that's going to happen anytime soon, but you never know. Study permit approvals plummet by 48% under the new cap. Well, of course, that was anticipated. Of course, a large number of people who come are from India. And that number has dropped drastically. I think about 45% less international students now applying for study permits from India for Canada, and that number has really moved. And this is going to happen. And of course, at this point of time, and I think for the next 2 years, the push is going to be will continue to demand for a lower number of temporary residents in Canada and lower number of permanent residents. So that number will continue. Misrepresentation warning. Express entry applicants are facing refusals for listing their spouse as non-accompanying, and this is also being considered as an intentional misrepresentation, especially for those individuals whose spouses are currently in Canada. So if your spouse is in Canada, this is turning out to be a bit of an issue. Can you do it? Yes, you can still show your spouse as not accompanying. Mind you, that is absolutely accepted. And this was a strategy that people have been using since 2015, ever since Express Entry came into existence. However, lately IRCC is seeing this as ways of how people are gaming the system, and they are no longer accepting your explanation that you're doing it just to improve your points. So can you do it? Yes, you can still do it, provided you have a very good and a convincing explanation as to why is it that your spouse is in Canada, but you are not including your spouse in your application, and saying that because of points, that's not going to cut it, because that is exactly what they want to not see happen. So be very careful if you're trying to do this. I have seen on an average at least one PFL, and this is just me, one single immigration consultant in Canada. There are another 13,000 other licensed immigration consultants, and another thousands of immigration lawyers, and of course, and there are tons and thousands of illegal agents across the world. So I do not know how many others are seeing it, but on an average, I have seen 20 to 25 PFLs every month, largely contributing towards the spouse not accompanying. And this has been happening largely over the last 3 to 5 months. So this has really caught up with IRCC. So please be very careful if you're trying to opt for this option. This could be serious trouble. Immigrants who once fought to get in now back tougher rules for others. This has been a very interesting one. This was an article which came up, and this was about people who have now become immigrants in Canada, or and then eventually become citizen in Canada, are now supporting stricter immigration policies because they think there are too many people who are coming to Canada as immigrants and the pathways are too easy, and they want lesser number of immigrants to come, which is quite contradictory, right? I mean, you yourself are an immigrant, you came to Canada, you found the pathway easily, and now you don't want anybody else to come in because why? So this is and obviously they are this trend is reflecting the concerns, rising concerns around housing, job competition, pressure on public services, reshaping on how immigrant communities view new arrivals. But yeah, definitely something which is quite like a crab mentality, crab in a bucket mentality, right? If I have gone through uh, uh, I'm sorry, I was just reading some comment. Can't really understand what it means, but yeah. So the trend has been concerning. Not really sure which way this is going to go, but uh, again, there are larger number of people who are being referred to CSIS for security checks. More people applying for asylum, especially from the our southern border up, and experts are urging for greater transparency. Well, that's basically all I have for this weekly roundup. Do connect with us on the social media platforms. We are pretty much everywhere, and of course, if you're still here, then give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course, if you wish to book a consultation one-on-one, then hey, this is the link, askkubeir.com/appointment. By all means, we can talk about your case, your situation, God forbid, your PFL, and see what possible solutions might be there for you. And of course, if you want to hire us as your immigration consultant, your authorized immigration representative, then that is the email, askkubeir, support@askkubeir.com. Please drop us an email. We'll be very happy to see how we can represent you or help you in your immigration applications. To the questions, as we should be heading to now, mind you, I have about, oh no, I do have a little bit of time, so we can try and answer as many questions as we can. I'm not, okay. Humaira Ajaz says, I apologize, but I'm having trouble understanding this conversation. It seems to be repeating information that we already know. They can make prediction just as I can. So I guess the purpose of all this, for those who don't stay updated and rely on someone else to compile and present information to them. Yes, probably that's the case, Humaira. It's good to know that you can obviously make all these predictions and you know everything yourself, and that is an excellent thing to do. Probably you should also be able to share the information that you have and the knowledge you have with people who otherwise may not be aware or who are not able to compile it themselves. Okay. Can we expect lower scores for the upcoming draws? Well, with every single draw, that depends. Every single time, what will decide upon the scores would be uh, the number of invitations and the current number of people in the pool. Now, if that is something which stays consistent, then you will be able to know how quickly the scores can drop. But the less number of people who are joining in the pool and higher the number of invitations, quickly and faster the scores will drop. Okay, sorry about that. Nothing here. HK, nothing here. Centrist. HK says, dummy work permit extension says work until August or decision. No decision yet. PR under CEC filed. Can I still work after the date, or is the new letter issued? The work authorization letter that you get is usually given so that you can share it with your employer who may not be willing to allow you to work. That date that is indicated over there is not a definitive date for you to stop working. It is just an indicative date depending on how much time an application processing can take. The law which allows you to continue working is under section 186, and whereas far as if you have submitted an application for a work permit before your current work permit has expired, then you are on a maintained status, and you will continue to be on a maintained status until a decision is made on your application. So by all means, continue to work. And if you need a new work authorization letter, then call IRCC and request them to send you another one. Nothing on this one. My PCC issuance date is November 24. I got my ITA 2 days ago. Is my PCC still valid? I never left Canada. Well, again, I have PCC. This is something which we have beaten to death by now, the subject. So if your police clearance was issued to you after you had left that country, or if you obtained that police clearance while you were outside that country for which you're getting a PCC, and you have never ever gone back to that country, then this PCC remains valid. What you must do is add a cover letter to this police clearance when you're submitting it in your application, specifying that you obtained it while you were outside, you have never gone back to that country, and that it should be considered as valid. And if IRCC needs a new updated PCC, then they can request you for it, they can ask you for it, and you will be able to get one. I have 1 year of tier 2 Canadian experience currently in Canada. I'm also working remotely for a remote work experience. I'm working remotely for Indian tier 2. Can I count this work experience for CRS points? Well, I just talked about this a bit earlier. I request you to sort of go back and see about this. First of all, I don't believe concurrent work experience can be claimed. So you cannot have Canadian and foreign at the same time. So you'll have to choose between the one or two. So you want to claim only Canadian experience, or you want to claim only foreign work experience. At least that's how I would like to see it. And as far as remote work experience is concerned, well, technically you should be able to claim it. And remote work experience has now been pretty much mainstream ever since COVID. I'm still not able to understand why IRCC is struggling to grasp on it and accept it. But at this point of time, it continues to remain in a gray area. IRCC has, I've seen a couple of refusals where they have said that in order for you to be claiming foreign work experience, you should be physically outside Canada. Though that word physically outside Canada has not been stated anywhere in the law book. So therefore, I guess at some point of time, we might see some case law or jurisprudence. But at this point of time, if you wish to claim, yes, you can. You can add lots of proof to show and support this work experience, to show that this is foreign work experience. And that's how you would go about it. And then you're taking a chance. But know that at this point of time, it falls under gray area. While submitting documents for permanent residence, I noticed clerical mistake in pay stub, which was submitted for spouse open work permit. In June pay stub, it's typed 31 days instead of 30, July 30th instead of 31. July 30th instead of 31. Please advise what to do. Well, I will not say, I won't say to do anything at all. If it's a clerical mistake, it's a clerical mistake. At this point of time, you should just submit your application the way it is. If IRCC has a problem, if they ask you for clarification, at that point of time, you can provide it. Or if you wish, you can also provide that information, that details upfront. If possible, add a supporting letter from the employer where the employer confirms that this was a clerical error. Received ITA in CEC. In application, my father and mother's name should be according to my passport or their passport. Sorry, is the names different? Well, in some cases, sometimes there is a spelling error or spelling difference. In this case, I always recommend that the name of your parents or your family member names should always be as per their identity documents, and that is how you should go about it. And you can always add a letter of explanation if you have to. My 2 years Canadian experience is completing in September. However, my points updated on the 1st of August and got ITA 2 days back. Can I accept the ITAs? Yes, you can. And this is a known express entry glitch whereby the system tends to give you points sooner than you actually complete your work experiences, because the system calculates, you have to enter your work experience as per the month and year. And the system tends to calculate it as the first of the starting month to the first of the ending month. And it tends to give you the points earlier. It has been acknowledged by IRCC on several occasions, and people have been doing it ever since express entry existed. So please do continue with your application. You can add a letter of explanation if you wish to, but only submit your PR application after you have completed that valid period of work, not before that. So that's very important. Can I apply for OINP in-demand stream if I have got a promotion? Yeah. My previous position falls under OINP in demand as a team lead, but with the promotion as a supervisor in a new position, doesn't fall under in demand. Well, this is how it works for in demand skill stream. You need to first have at least 9 months of experience within the last 2 years. That's the first condition. Second is that you need to have a job offer from the employer in that occupation. So now if you're promoted means you do not have the job offer, and if you do not have the job offer, then unfortunately you may not you may no longer be eligible for the in-demand stream. So as long as you're aware of the requirement, please always follow the Ontario or the provincial or the IRCC website as applicable. But as far as the specifics of the stream is concerned, eligibility concern is one, and then the criteria of how you can then further claim eligibility in that point is something else. So first of all, you have to be qualified, as in you need to have 9 months of work experience in that knock code, and then you need to have a job offer in that knock code in order to be eligible. If you are promoted, then obviously you won't have it, and then you might not be eligible anymore. In CEC, do I submit all pay stubs or last 6 months? I tend to provide at least for 1 year, first 6, last 6, and something in between, or at least 1 year of Canadian work experience pay stubs. At least that's what I usually recommend. Common law eligible, lived together as couple for 12 plus months, but took 2 trips, 3 weeks each separately. Will month count reset after each vacation? Well, not really. IRCC says that your 12 months of relationship should be continuous. There can be no breaks in the relationship. But travel, business travel, family travel, health issues, job, work assignment, etc., these are all explainable and acceptable. These are not considered as break in your relationship if you've just traveled because you had to travel, kind of a thing. So that's absolutely fine. It doesn't reset automatically. Sibling proficiency proof, bank statement, DL, internet bill will suffice. If no, hydro bill, and can OCI card serve as proof of relationship? You need to prove 3 things for sibling points. First is proof of relationship. So either provide your birth certificates or provide your passport copies which show the name of the parents, common parents names. Second is proof of the status. So your sibling permanent resident card, citizenship certificate, or Canadian passport as the proof of status. And third is the proof of residence, that they currently reside in Canada. So employment documents, pay stubs, lease, utility bills, these are all establishing the residence as well. So you can use them. Part 1, hired as an engineer by a company. All my payslips are from this company. Deputed to work under gazetted officer at a defense lab. My relieving letter confirms my employment. Okay, so what is the question? Period and deputation company closed. The scientist will provide letter confirming my duties. Staffing company in my SP with offer and relieving letter and duties letter. Is this enough to claim my foreign work experience points? So I'm honestly not very clear with the question, but I will try and do my best. You will need to prove 3 things. First of all, that you were employed. So the staffing company can give you the letter of employment stating you were working from this date to this date, you were assigned to this company, or you were assigned to this person, or you were employed at the third party, the scientist that you were working, who was a gazetted officer. And then it should also mention the salary and the hours per week. The gazetted officer can then confirm that yes, you were assigned to him by the staffing company, and these were your roles and responsibilities. And of course, you will also have to prove that you were paid. So your salary slips, bank statements, income tax returns will be the third thing. The job roles and responsibility must match with the knock code. Combination of all of this with proper explanation, you will be able to claim points. I have 3 years experience from 2 startups, both closed. I have got reference letters, pay stubs, bank statements, and tax documents. But since both companies are closed, will IRCC doubt my experience? What extra proof or LOE tips I need? Companies that have already closed always become a very difficult one when it comes to establishing the credibility, when it comes to establishing or validating that work experience. IRCC can reach out to you, ask you for additional contact details, additional proof of the company's existence. When did the company close down? How long were you working for? If you have any other correspondence with the company while you were working to show that this was legit work experience. They can also ask you for more details on the person who has signed the document, your supervising manager, supervising officer. From your side upfront, if you can provide that information, it always helps. Got ECOPR, waiting for PR card, have valid TRV, PGWP. Can I go to India, other country, and return to Canada, PRTD compulsory, not emergency, can apply for PRTD. Well, if you are a permanent resident, you should not try to travel to Canada on a TRV. TRV is meant for temporary resident visitors. Okay. Now the reason for that is that when you are trying to fly, when you will go to, like, let's say you're coming back from, I'm going to assume from India, at the check-in desk at the Indian airport, from the airline check-in desk, in a lot of cases they are required to call the embassy, Canadian embassy, to validate the genuineness of your visa documents and your eligibility to travel. And once the check-in desk will call the embassy and they will find out that your visa, that you are a permanent resident and no longer eligible to fly on a temporary residence visa, they will deny your check-in and they will deny you boarding. And we have seen a lot of cases happening already, and then you will be asked to apply for PRTD. So save yourself that trouble and apply for PRTD. Right now, it's taking quite they're processing it quite fast. I mean, I have seen PRTD applications with us being processed in as less as a week. And if it can be processed in a week at our end, I'm sure you can get it done as well. So yeah, get a proper document and don't put yourself in any trouble in this manner. Express entry profile will expire on the 18th September, but it will be a draw week. Can I open a completely new profile before that expiry? Yes, of course, you can create a new express entry profile at any stage. Of course, what will matter would be your tiebreaker. And if your express entry profile expires on the 18th of September, then may as well wait till the 18th of September. Let the draw happen. If you don't get invited, you go and create a new profile. If you get invited, you can continue the same application. But yeah, if your question is, can you open a new profile? Yes, you can. But having multiple profiles is not something which is recommended by IRCC. I'll work more 3 days to cover less hours and submit my file before deadline, but I won't get the last salary slip. Is that okay, or is that another option? No, this is perfectly fine. You can complete your period of work. Hopefully your employment letter will indicate your period of work, and that will establish that you did work for those 3 other days as well. Try and get that, if not your paycheck. 6M cash, 14M bank salary. I'm not sure what you mean. If VO rejects cash, can I claim 14M have ITR tax, can't file as over 5 years old? What is a strong pack proof? I am not really sure what we are asking for here. But if you're asking about proof of salary, you can provide pay stubs, you can show bank statements, you don't have income tax returns. Well, you have for 2 years, provide those. Obviously, you shouldn't be filing taxes just to prove your work experience. That's not the way to do it. You should already have the tax returns. That's how it has to be established. But if you have 14 months of bank statements and that shows that salary was credited, that is good enough. And 14 months plus 6 months is 20 months. So you will still get points for 1 year, and it still doesn't matter. So whether IRCC accepts 6 months or not, that doesn't matter. You have 14 months of bank statements that does establish that you were paid, and that's what will work for you. That's absolutely fine. No issues there. CRS 514 work permit is expiring April 26. Is it possible to receive ITA this year? Well, of course it is possible, but the only person who can tell you with any certainty would be IRCC, because they're the ones who can tell you how many invitations they will be issuing, when will they be issuing, but they also do not know how many people will keep getting added into the pool. So while it's possible, it's very difficult to speculate at this point of time. CRS of 511, retake for 517 or wait. I would always suggest to improve your scores if you can by any manner. So if you can retake your English language scores and get to 517, then you most certainly should. You most certainly should do that. Got 1 year left on postgraduate work permit, planning to get a remote job for foreign experience. What documents do I need to prove remote work for visa officer? Well, the most important would be your employment letter, your job documentation, your pay stubs. But I also recommend to have a lot of other documentation handy. So for example, if it's a remote work experience, means you are being assigned tasks, you are being asked to do certain jobs, and then you are again providing your reports that you're preparing, your call logs, your meeting details, your attendance. How is your attendance being monitored? Your communication with whoever you're reporting to, how is that communication happening? All of this you should have a log of have a proper documentation, and present it to IRCC to prove your work experience being genuine. I want to apply closed work permit, but I only have 1 week left. Can my employer do the compliance fee on time? I'm a Saskatchewan student stream now. Yes, to do the compliance fee, it takes only less than an hour. You create your employer portal account, enter the job offer details, pay the $230 compliance fee, give you the screenshot. You take the screenshot, enter the A number against the LMIN number in your 5710 immigration application form, and then go ahead and complete the application. Make sure you add proof of uh, proof of requirement to work. So basically your education documents, previous work experience documents, definitely add a job offer letter from the company, and the screenshot of the compliance fee that has been paid. Nothing here. What's going on with the OINP skill trade? Are there any approvals recently from last year ITAs? Yes, I have seen a couple of approvals. Actually, a couple of our clients got the approvals. But what's going on? I mean, I do not know what you mean by what's going on. The process is slow, and it is slow because of the fact that their quotas have been cut into half. And because they're slashed into half, they're obviously proceeding very, very slowly and hoping to get additional nomination quotas, and then they can probably rush up again. If I get an ITA without spouse and adding spouse after ITA who's in India, but he had spouse open work permit refusal, adding him after an ITA is an issue? No, absolutely not an issue. But just make sure if you're adding your spouse after ITA that your scores remain above the cutoff. And if they do, then you can certainly add your spouse to your application. Nothing here. I have class 1 license and I have an open work permit, but no job offer, but I can get a job offer. Which province is easy to apply for PR? I have no idea what you mean by class 1 license, and I have no understanding of your profile. And on this live stream, I cannot tell you anything about your opportunities or your options. The only recommendation is go through the different provincial nominee programs, check where your work experience may be valid, see where you can find an employer who can support your application, and then look for possible streams and then apply there. Healthcare ITA, if I submit by August 28, when COPR? When COPR, average processing time is 6 months. If CEC gets rejection, can it impact an ongoing non-EE PNP PR application? Steps for safety. In that case, is it better to choose closed work permit or a bridge open work permit? Well, again, too many variables here, which I cannot tell you. I do not know why you would expect an application to be rejected. Is there a reason why it should get rejected? If you have done a proper job, if you've done a good job with your application, you have provided proper documentation, then your application shouldn't get refused. As far as safety net you're looking for, at some point of time, if you have multiple PR applications, IRCC is going to ask you to withdraw the one application. And you would have to withdraw one application anyways. So whether you are applying for an open work permit or not, that won't matter. So this way, closed work permit always has a better option. Open work permit will be dependent on your PR application. If your PR application gets refused, if your open work permit hasn't been processed, it would also get refused. But closed work permit is dependent on the fact that you have a work permit supporting letter, you have a job offer, you have paid the compliance fee, and you are eligible for a closed work permit under T13. So the chances of that one getting approved are much higher, regardless of what happens to your PR application. My wife's spouse open work permit is under review. Can I apply for PR despite differing stay intentions? I don't know what it means. Would it cause any problem for spouse open work permit or PR application? Okay, I don't understand what you mean by differing stay intentions, but can you apply for PR while your spouse open work permit is in process? The answer is yes, you can. There is no problem with that. Work experience end date in study permit based on resign applied at the time of study permit, later resigned after 90 days, but is corrected in work permit. I have letters. Do I need LOE? Will it be any problem? I don't think it will be a problem. Even if your period of time extended, you can always explain it at a later date that while you applied for study permit, you intended to resign, but you didn't resign. But the point is, you have to be able to prove and explain as required by IRCC. I think it should be fine. 3 months on that date would not make much of a difference. Does work experience in a foreign country count towards CEC if it was done when I was a full-time student and it is not part of my studies? Yes, foreign work experience while studying outside Canada, so study and work together counts. That is not a problem. There is no issues. Only if you are working while you are in Canada and studying at the same time, that work experience does not count. I applied for non-express entry PR masters, no savings, pay stubs, and employment letter is okay to submit for ADR requirement. ADR requested is an EMP letter, bank statement for last 6 months with negative gambling. I'm not even able to understand what exactly you are asking me. I applied for non-EE, okay? Is it okay to submit for ADR request? I don't even know what the ADR request is for. ADR is requesting you for employment letter and bank statements. So give them the employment letter and bank statements. Your negative gambling transactions will not have any impact. So IRCC doesn't care what you do with your money. What they care about is if you were paid and if you were working. And that is probably what they're looking to establish here. They might again ask you for funds or proof of funds to establish whether you can economically establish yourself. Now, that's a different thing altogether, but please pay attention to the ADR, exactly what they're asking for, and then provide it to them. Got an ITA at 520, but it shows 515 while submitting due to birthday. Is that okay? Yes, absolutely fine. If you are losing points because of your birthday coming after you got an ITA, then IRCC will not consider that decline of 5 points, and your application will still go through. So please don't worry. CEC score 512, 8 months of foreign work experience from 2020. Should I wait or move back to gain 4 months? I would suggest to go and get 4 months. You will probably wait 4 months and still 512 might not hit the way IRCC is operating with so much of uncertainty, but you will be able to get your points in that 4 months and be sitting right at top of the pool. So I would definitely go back and get my 4 months if I was you. CEC, I have 1500 hours with full-time tier 3. Can I cover up remaining 60 hours by doing part-time job? Yes, absolutely. For CEC, any combination of work experience with maximum of 30 hours per week can be counted. Different tier codes, different knock codes, as long as they're all tier 0, 1, 2, 3, and they're all paid under a valid knock code, all of that counts, no problem. Dummy extension applied for me and my wife in May. Now AOR received, web form raised, and dummy extension of bridge open work permit. What to do about spouse dummy extension so she can work? Same thing. You can also do the same thing what you have done for your dummy extension. Please bear in mind, sending web forms for dummy extensions doesn't guarantee that they will accept it. They may not. But and as far as spouse open work permit is concerned, you have to be able to show that you've already applied for PR, you provided your AOR, and give that letter, give that explanation, and then just hope and pray IRCC accepts it, because this is completely at their discretion. If my foreign employer is not providing me with an employment letter with job duties, can I claim the points by offer letter, experience letter in their format and pay slips? Yes, you can, as long as your documents include 3 very important things. First one is your period of work. From which date to which date, how many hours per week. Second is that you are paid. So your pay stubs, bank statements, salary credit, your letter, employment letter showing that you were paid, that this was your salary. Third, and very important, very critical, is your job roles and responsibilities. If you have your documentation that establish your job roles and responsibilities, then that's what you can provide. And yes, you can claim your work experience. Score is 533, expecting ITA in the next row. I have my PCC issued in Jan. I'm traveling to India. Will I require new PCC? Well, if you submit your application after returning from India, then definitely you need a new PCC. I know IRCC website says that you need a new PCC only after you have stayed for 6 months again. And after that, all that, at least I will not recommend, because I have seen too many refusals for applications where their police clearance does not cover their entire duration of the stay. So if you are traveling, then try to submit your application before you travel. Then you don't need a new PCC after AOR. But if you're going to be submitting your application after you return back, then you definitely need a new PCC. My spouse is working as a security supervisor and postgraduate work permit. Will I be able to apply for spousal open work permit? He entered Canada in September. Unfortunately not. Security supervisor is not eligible to sponsor you as a spouse on a spouse open work permit. Going to India in September for a month, got my PCC. If I receive an ITA in between, can I submit the same PCC while submitting my application? Same thing I just answered. If you are going to be submitting your application before you travel, then you can. If you don't, then you will need to get a new PCC. Your PCC must cover your entire duration of stay. So therefore, you return back to Canada, apply for a new PCC. If you don't get a new PCC in time, you can still add a letter of explanation. You can write to IRCC you applied for PCC. You have to provide proof of having applied for PCC. So copies of receipt, dashboard, screenshots, payment receipts, application updates, whatever that might be, provide all of that so that you can establish that you have applied for your PCC. If someone works in healthcare, have duties well aligned with nursing coordinator, but does not have nursing background, are they eligible for healthcare draw? Well, at the end of the day, you have to be able to prove that you can indeed work the work that you are doing. Now, if it is a regulated occupation, that becomes even more difficult. But as long as you have an employment letter which says you are doing what you are supposed to be doing and that matches the specific knock code, that's good. Express entry does not have to pay attention to the employment requirements, which state the requirement of education, etc. However, officer can always raise credibility concerns if you do not have any background but are still working in an occupation which you normally otherwise wouldn't without having that kind of education. So it can have credibility concerns, but as long as you can explain how did you get the job and how are you working in that, you should be fine. Got married out of my home country and I have country's marriage certificate. Do I need any other documents from country of residence, as in family certificate? Well, if you have a legal valid marriage certificate issued by the registered authorized agencies who are supposed to be issuing a marriage certificate, then that's absolutely fine. That's all you need for your proof of marriage. I was taking a distance learning course in my home country while I was on a work permit working full-time in Canada. Does it count? I was taking a full-time distance learning course. Yes, it counts. You can use that distance learning course. There is no problem with that. You can, if you get a VEST done or a ECA done, then you can take points for that education as well. CEC ITA with company A, no later, plus company B 23 months. At EAPR, can I claim 24 months only from company B? No, of course not. If you have only 23 months of experience, you can't claim points for 24 months. In order to claim points for 24 months, you must have 24 months of work experience. And you still have to prove the same thing. If your company is not giving you a reference letter, you still need to be able to prove the period of work, the hours per week, the salary paid to you, and the job duties and responsibilities. If your company is not giving it, you get it from your manager and then get additional documents to prove that you were paid and that you were working for this company, experience letter, etc. But without this, you will not be able to claim points. Applying for PR under CEC, never showed self-employed private tuitions, but now want to show in work history, not to claim points. Is it okay? Well, if you're not claiming points, then show it in the personal history. And if you're claiming points, and this is a big red flag as to why did you not show it in your previous application. So please, proceed with caution. Follow-up question. I was a student in Canada, but working every summer back home. They add up to 1 year. Will this count as foreign work experience? Yes, if you are returning back to your home country every year, and while you are returned back to your home country and then you were working, then it will count. Yes. Got ITA on for 518. Thank you for all your support. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate Sarat. I wish you all the very best and a very quick and speedy processing of your application. Apply PRTD for non-emergency. Apply when within Canada. You should apply maybe 2 or 3 days before departure if you are leaving Canada, or apply after you have left Canada. I had 9 months of foreign work experience before coming to Canada and 2 years of Canadian experience. Can I go back and get 3 more months of foreign experience, non-concurrent? Yes, you can. If you have 9 months of foreign experience, now if you go back, you can go back and get your 3 months. The break in foreign experience and having a different occupation is acceptable. It's allowed as long as you are already eligible in CEC. So if you are eligible in CEC, and this information comes from section 24 and section 25 of ministerial instructions, where they say multiple occupations, multiple employers, multiple knock codes for foreign work experience in combination with at least 1 year of Canadian experience is acceptable. It's allowed, so it's not a problem. Having exactly 12 months of foreign experience, is it okay to claim my foreign experience? Absolutely. If it is 12 months of experience, absolutely okay to claim. There is no requirement to have more than 12 months to claim 12 months. So as long as it's 12 months, it's good. My work permit is expiring in Jan. I'm doing French. Can I come on a visitor visa while giving French exam? Is it a difficult process? How long does it take? I'm not sure what you mean. Can I come on a visitor visa? Yes, of course you can. If you have a valid TRV, you can come to Canada, no problem. You just have to be able to prove to the border officer why you are visiting Canada, what is the purpose of your visit, and of course that your intention should be to return back. As long as you're able to establish, prove it, then you're good to come. Age 39 in Canada since 2022. TCS got extension. CELPIP, CC invite. TCS offering better role in USA. Move now or wait? Well, I can't tell you. Even if you do move, you can. 510, you will continue to be CEC, and waiting is not really giving you any advantage. I mean, except that you might be able to add extra points if you complete another year of Canadian work experience. But other than that, if you are moving, that's absolutely fine. You will continue to be CEC, and while you are outside, you can still wait for CEC draws to happen. And if you get invited, you can always return back. Number one. Number two, you can proceed with your application while you are outside Canada, and you can express your desire, your intent to wanting to move to Canada once you are approved. Should I switch job? Came after grade 12, finished DSW, 1.5 years work experience. Employer supports only international, possibly foreign worker. Work permit expires in 20 months. Again, not at all clear about what your question here is. Should you switch job? Well, DSW, I think, is eligible in some of the PNP streams as long as your employer is willing to support your application. Or if you are targeting a particular immigration stream where you have a chance with your work experience, then continue. If you don't have a chance, if there is no PNP stream or the employer is not supporting you, then probably switch your jobs. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining in. It was lovely catching up again. I had another one that I wanted to talk to you about, and that was, oh, not this. I wanted to talk to you about this today, but category selection discussion of 2026, but obviously didn't get a chance to do that today. Probably will do it again at a different date and time, because this is something very interesting about this one. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, until then, stay forever hopeful. Take care, and I shall see you next time.